Yeah, just to get started though, if you guys just want to kind of like introduce yourselves, like what you do here, background, you know, are you from Colorado, how long have you been in industry, just kind of that sort of thing.
Sure. So my name's Erik Smith. I go by Smitty. Based here. Today is my actually 28th year anniversary.
Congratulations!
Yeah. Awesome.
That worked out pretty well.
So I'm born and raised in Fort Collins. Went away for school, and then this is my first job. So that's why I started when I was 23, and kind of wore a lot of hats. It was a brand new company when Doug and Corky started it. So there was only probably 8 or 9 people working here, pretty much in brewing and in manufacturing when I started, and kind of was the first sales rep, and then kind of rolled that into marketing, and I had a marketing degree in college, and kind of was in the sales marketing role for the last 25 years, and then 3 years ago the Odells all retired, all 3 of them on the same day.
I saw them, they sold, right?
Yeah, well, they still own 30%.
Yeah.
There's a management group that owns 51% that I'm part of, and then they created an ESOP, employee ownership, so everyone's an owner really after you work here a year.
Gotcha.
But someone needed to take over the CEO role from Win, and so I kind of moved in that role.
Yeah, you kind of stepped into that role.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I still lean back towards marketing and sales and stuff on things that, finance isn't my background, or on the production side. So when I lean back more there than anywhere. But just kind of, we do a lot of things in teams, and just trying to keep the ship going.
Yeah. Keep the thing moving.
Yes.
Nice.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah, I'm Kayne. I'm the director of marketing here. I've been with the brewery now for almost 6 years. And prior to that, I worked mostly at ad agencies. So out of Boulder and Miami. Worked on a lot of different brands, a lot of different industries. Loved it. Got to make lots of campaigns and lots of work. But I had a chance to kind of dabble in craft beer when I was in Boulder. I got to work on a campaign for Upslope Brewing.
Oh yeah.
And I had so much fun. I'm like, how do I just do this every day? And so I started to, put the feelers out, and reached out to Odell, and was super fortunate that, the stars aligned, and I've been here ever since.
In terms of Odell as like a company, what are some like the long-term goals that you guys see, or where you see the company in about 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, interesting you asked that. Thanks for sending the questions ahead of time so we can think about who would cover some of those. We're an evergreen company. You can Google Tugboat Institute and read more up on that. But there's like 250 companies throughout the U.S. Wynn founded this organization about 7 years ago or more when it founded. Basically, they're privately held companies. They're not publicly traded. They don't have private equity. So all private companies, but they're in it for the long term. And that's kind of how they've always been. The Odells have been around for 32-ish years, 33 years. I forget our anniversary now.
I think it's 89.
80,
right?
Well, 89, but yeah.
I can't remember the exact date.
Yeah. But it's that continuing on their legacy, that long-term vision. And we're not in it to be in it and find a buyer and sell. Really, their legacy, what they want to continue on is have it being around for generations. So that's why putting that ESOP into place and employee ownership.
Okay.
So the next 3 to 5 years and then 10 years is that slow growth. We call it, within Evergreen there's 7 Ps, pragmatic innovation, people first, private is one of those, but one of them is paced growth. And so our growth is really just slow and steady. We aren't looking for huge gains. We aren't trying to take over the world. More like the Pickle Barrel by CSU, where they have the one shot.
Right.
We aren't trying to be Subway or Quiznos or anything like that.
Right.
We're only in 20 states. We've slowly entered states over the last 30 plus years, but our goal is not to be a national brand. It's to sell most of our beer in Colorado and be focused in Colorado. If we could do it all over again, there's a brewery in Wisconsin called New Glarus. They're larger than us, but they sell all of their beer in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
A lot of it's bootleg back to Chicago and things like that. But I think if we did it all over again, we wouldn't sell beer in North Dakota and Iowa and all that. And we appreciate the beers that we sell there now.
Sure.
But that slow growth mentality and grow steady enough that we can provide raises to our coworkers, also provide new jobs and hire more people, but not just in it not to go global. And that's what the industry's really turned into lately, is this global,
right.
Anheuser-Busch is owned by,
My next question, what does Odell Brewing do for the community in terms of like charity, nonprofit? Is there any like volunteer programs that you guys do here? what other like philanthropic, I guess, efforts?
I'll let Alex take this, but to finish that evergreen, the 7 P's, if you look at the first P that's listed is your purpose. And our purpose is to build community through beer. That's what our purpose is. And so really, communities mentioned before beer, mentioned before profits and all that. So really, we kind of lean back on that always. What are we doing that helps our community, not only Fort Collins, but we have 2 breweries in Denver now, we have a winery next door, but getting back to our community, not just our coworkers, but taking care of the accounts that we service, that are customers of ours, and looking back to our consumers and community itself. But I'll let you kind of talk about how we give back and what in the history.
Yeah, I mean, it really kind of began with Doug Wing and Corky, as the founders. Giving back was something that had always been a part of their lives. It was from the beginning, the table stakes to why a business should exist is that a portion of that business's success should be shared with the community around it. And that foundational commitment has become a cornerstone of the way Odell looks at our books, the way we look at our growth and our progress. It's having been here for a few years, it's so ingrained into what we do, it's really powerful. And everybody that works here knows it. We have had kind of different formats for how that giving works, but most recently we got the team together to talk about that and try to communicate it, because it used to be kind of an internal number. We had a pretty strong no big checks rule. The founders were like, no big checks ever, with us standing next to you like the Happy Gilmore with like like no big checks, no like giant cardboard ones where you take the photo and applaud yourself, but it was kind of internal and it was personal. And so our format was, X number of dollars per barrel of beer would be set aside for us to work with the community. And I think what we realized is that was really hard to communicate to our fans, and that it was meaningful to our fans and to the community at large. Like, what's really interesting to see in business right now is how private companies are using their philanthropy and their way to give back as sort of a foundational reason to choose that business. And I think that's so different from the way that businesses operated 50, 100 years ago. And I love that. So what we've been working on is a really clear and simple way to share that with our fans. And so we've done that with all the departments together to kind of stamp on our brand that we give 1% of our revenue back. And we were inspired a little bit by Yvon Chouinard's 1% for the Planet, because it's so concrete and clear, and we like that accountability. We're familiar with greenwashing on the sort of energy and climate side of things and sustainability, but I think that's also sometimes true with business in the philanthropy side of things, in the charitable component. So the 1% of revenue was really concrete and it held us accountable. And so the way that works is it's not 1% of profit, it's 1% of revenue. And so all the cost of us doing business still has to come from that first number. And then what I also love too is it's not just dollars, it's also effort. And for us, the effort piece is really powerful. And so we, as an organization, with 200 plus employees, I want to get my numbers right, we offer 2 full days of volunteer time. And so you can break that out into a couple hours here and there, or you can take 2 full days.
And 2 full days paid. No, that's awesome. I guess the next question I have to ask would be, in terms of sustainability and environmental concerns, I guess how does Odell Brewing approach sustainability?
And every day we think about it all the time. I think what Alex said about not kind of beating our chests on the sustainability side, that the Odells have always followed that. There's been a lot of organizations out there, Patagonia, it's a big part of what they do. Even New Belgium talked about it for a long time. We did a lot of similar things as a lot of other breweries like Sierra Nevada, New Belgium, with water, with wind. We use a lot of water in our brewing process and in our product itself. And so being very aware with that was a lot of our charitable partners. They're always one of them is sustainability, like Coalition for Clear River Watershed. But in terms of our packaging materials and recycling and everything we do, it's a big part of what we do. We have solar panels on the top of our roof. We use wind power as well. One of our biggest, most recent ones, we made a commitment to capture CO2. So every brewery in the world releases CO2 in the process, and you have to buy more CO2 for carbonation and whatnot. But there's new technology that's out there that you can recapture CO2. Our Chief Operating Officer, Brendan, just was in Maui and visited Maui Brewing. It's hard for them to get CO2 to bring all the way over there, so they bought one of those early systems, and so we're with the same company. So that we made the board and leadership team made a decision to, it's over $1 million investment to purchase a CO2 recapture system. So that will be huge when we get that in place. It'll be in line 2023. We'll have a lot more information that we're all learning about, that we can put it out there of why, but our goal not only is to recapture our CO2, help the environment, help our globe, but hopefully encourage other breweries to look into that and do that as well. So that's our biggest effort we have in front of us that we're thinking about. But,
how recent was that decision made?
In the last, in our budgeting process, so at the end of last year, in Q4 of last year, we've been looking at it and researching it for the last, I would get it wrong, whatever, I guess, 5 years or whatever. Looking at it.
Thinking about dipping
The
your toes in.
technology hasn't been there yet, and then the cost of those systems were so vast that it didn't make sense for our size. There's some other companies and other businesses manufacturing that do that, but the cost to do that was so substantial. But as we've grown and as that industry has improved in that technology, I think the cost of that has come down to do that. And we got to the point now, not only sustainability side, but also with everything that's going on in the world, with Ukraine and other things, there has been a CO2 shortage as well.
Okay.
So it also, we can, instead of having to buy CO2, we can reuse our own. And so we wouldn't have, some of that cost savings would also be involved with that as well. So.
Okay. My next question is going to be a little bit of a pivot from that.
Yeah.
That is just my curiosity. What are your favorite beers? Or if you have one that's your favorite, what is it?
Well, I have a couple.
Okay.
Depends if I want hops or if I want Odell IPA is always the go-to for everyone here.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us drink Drum Roll, our hazy pale ale, which is it's always in my fridge. But we just released Lagerado, which is a new crispy lager, which is nice. That light, crisp, refreshing lager is what I'm bringing home now with a 12-pack of that and a 6-pack of Drum Roll mostly. So.
Right.
Awesome. Okay.
That's such. I think the best part of that question is I don't have to have a favorite. I probably would say my favorite way to choose a beer is to see what my brewing coworkers are excited about. If we have now 3 different pilot systems, and I love the spirit of a pilot system. It's kind of the complete freedom to make whatever beer you're inspired by. And you don't get bogged down with, your cost of goods sold or needing to scale a rest. Can you get that up to 100 barrels? Can you do this? That when you're on the pilot system, you just make. You just iterate. And so if I go down to Denver, and Brett Cordell runs our pilot system down in Denver, he's worked at the brewery for many, many years and used to run the pilot system and the barrel program here. But then, we sent our best, down to Denver.
20 years he's been here now.
Is it 20? Yeah. It's amazing. If Brett Cordell's excited about something, you can drink that beer. If he tells you, have you had this beer? Yeah, you're like, I'm on my way. And I just, for me, the pilot system,